welcome back to Let's Create with Alex Blake. I'm your host, Alex Blake, and today we have a guest on the pod. You know her, you love her. Her name is Danielle Hickman. Woo! The crowd goes
I'm
wild.
so dead. Hello.
Danielle, introduce yourself. I know if you're watching on YouTube, everybody just thinks it's a mirror. It's double me
The
because we
same.
weirdly look alike.
We're actually sisters. No.
Yeah, no, we're not that we know of, but
Mhm.
Anyway, Danielle, introduce yourself and tell everybody, hey.
Okay. Hey, everybody. Thank you guys. I'm so excited. Thank you, Alex, for having me on. It's such a freaking honor. I'm Danielle. I am a Alabama wedding photographer, but I mainly do destination weddings, elopements, all
But
the
like
things.
everywhere.
But like, I like to go everywhere. Listen, I like to stay busy. It is who I am. I can't change it. Um, Yeah, I am a wedding photographer. I've been in the industry full time for about 5 years now. Absolutely adore it. It has been the biggest blessing truly in my life. Like this career I never thought would take off the
Mhm.
way it has and really just become something where I have so much flexibility while also getting to meet some of the coolest people in the coolest places ever. And I love every second of it. So yeah, that's
That
a
was
little
so good. It was like short and sweet, like perfect little intro. What is your Instagram? Tell everybody your Instagram. So if they're listening, they can like look you up and all the things, unless
yeah.
they're driving. They're not going to do it if they're driving.
Please, no driving, Instagramming. That is the rule. My Instagram is @ Danielle Photog, or some people like to say Photo G. Whatever you're feeling,
Ooh,
frisky. That's another
photo
one.
G.
Photo
I
G.
always say photog,
That's
not
what I
even photog. I say photog.
photog.
It's like a futon.
Not the futon.
That is so funny.
Okay,
Okay, I think your Instagram is so funny. I have to tell you this because when you go to Danielle's Instagram, it's like this moody, beautiful, like storytelling thing. And then if you swipe over to her reels, it's like, who is this woman?
totally different, two different personalities.
But like in the best way, you know?
Yeah. Yes.
So, okay, I want you to talk about your reels for a second
Yeah.
because legitimately I was like, this is the thing I want to talk to you about. Like, I want to talk to you about your reels because they're freaking hilarious.
Thank you.
So, I
Thank
know you did your whole intro of like, yeah, I'm a destination wedding photographer
you.
and like I do all of these things, but like, tell me about your reels.
Okay.
Like, how do you come up with your content?
Okay, so here's the thing. I love making reels. I think in the industry, there's two different types of people. There's like, crap, I have to make a reel today. Like, I've got a batch of
Mm,
reels. Like, I love it. It's like where I just get my fix. Like, I love it so much. And I think when reels came out and Instagram was like, okay, we have this new feature and I have to use it. And I was like, what do I do? I was like, I am not a BTS and then photos
mm.
queen. I'm just truly an idiot. So I'm like, let me just be an idiot and
I
make
love it.
reels. So I feel like when I started making them, it was very just like I wanted people to see my personality outside of like my photos.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've noticed, but I feel like I do something more unorthodox, which is I keep my reels and my photos on my page completely separate. So like
I
my reels
know.
for a day, 24 hours, and then I remove them from my profile grid. So they all are
Yeah.
just like on my real page. I keep my photos on my photo page. I want to keep it separate almost because
Mm,
those are just like two different things that also like make up me, but also are very different. I have like professional, this is what I do. I'm on business,
yeah.
I'm in business. And then there's like, no, I like to be funny and have a good time and like be humorous and all the things. Um, but
I
for real,
also feel like, just to interrupt you really quick, I also feel
yeah.
like what I was wondering is if you did it with intention of who your audience is. Because I
Yes,
feel like your posts are
yes.
more like geared towards clients and then your reels are
Yep.
geared towards photographers.
That is
So
very, very
interesting.
true. Yeah. So when I started making reels, I did want to actually gear more of my content towards photographers, mainly because at
Hmm.
the time I was really pushing mentorships and really getting into that side of things. I was hosting a lot of content days, workshops. And the workshops, I loved educating. Like, I
Yeah.
love telling people how to do one of the funnest careers ever. I'm like, no, like, I'm not a gatekeeper. I'm like, let
Yep.
me tell you all the goods. But yeah, when I started doing reels, I was like, I need to utilize this because it's Instagram. And if you don't utilize what they want, they're not going to push out your stuff. So it's like, I have
Yeah.
to utilize it, but how do I want to utilize it? So photographers were my target audience, but I wanted to still keep it very lighthearted. So finding like trending audios and then doing something like quick, easy, but, like, relatable to all photographers was, like, where
Yeah.
my niche is completely with that side of, like,
100%.
my reels,
Yeah.
yeah. So, really, the way I do it and people are like, "How do you come up with these things?" I'm like, in my head, I literally have on my phone a list of, like, ideas. So, I'm like, okay, it always you're going through family photos and someone's eyes are always shut, like, trying to figure out, like
I just had that.
exactly, like,
Mhm.
the normal every time you're at a wedding, like, what happens
Yeah.
consistently that, like, happens consistently, so it probably happens with other people,
Yeah.
and I literally have in my notes just ideas that I jot down sometimes on wedding days where I'm like, "Wait, this just happened and this always happens. Let me write that down because 'cause that'd be a funny reel."
That's a good
And
idea.
then I go through reels, obviously, just, like, watching them, and if I find a funny audio, I save them, and then I'll kinda just match up an audio with an idea, and then ship it off, and that's it.
Ship it
So,
off.
ship it off
Stop
to
it
the
right
universe.
now. I just ship it off, see what happens.
Hope for the best,
That
right?
is so funny, like the UPS package.
Literally, yeah, yeah, I never
No.
thought that they would gain the traction that they did, though. I was like, but
Yeah.
just the relatability of, like, people actually
Yes.
being like, "Oh, this is, like, a normal like, this happens to me too."
Yeah.
Um, just kind of yeah, it kinda took it in a certain direction, and I absolutely love it. It's so fun.
Yeah, and I think it's cool, like, going back to you saying, like, you love to educate. People love to, like, be coached by people who are relatable and who
Yeah,
understand, So I think it's cool that they find you through that. But speaking of coaching and education and everything, guys, we kind of have an announcement.
kind of a
By
big
the
deal.
It's, like, such a big deal because by the time the podcast has come out, like, this episode, everyone will already know this, but for
Yeah,
us, we haven't told anybody. We haven't said it
honestly.
out loud. Okay, guys, Danielle is speaking at the March 2025 photo camp.
I'm so excited.
I am so excited. It'll be our first time meeting in person. We've really only had one other video chat about photo camp before
Which is
this,
actually crazy because I feel
but
like
like I feel like we're best friends.
yeah, we've already hung out, like, 20 times in my
I
brain, so
know. Yeah, like which is so funny. I just too. I feel like we're like two little peas in a pod.
yeah, I feel the and we look alike, so it just
And
goes
we look alike. So again, we might be long lost sisters. We'll let you guys know.
I'll talk to my mom
We'll
after
go
this.
through the family tree after this. That is so funny. No, but I am so excited to have you and get to like hear from you. Something that's cool, and this wasn't in any of the questions that I sent you, so sorry putting you on the spot.
You're fine.
But I want to hear a little bit. You talk about like your story into
Mhm.
photography and then now like pivoting into education and stuff like that too, while also dealing with clients and all the things. But you had told me a while ago you went to school for
Accounting.
finance or counting, something with math.
Yes, something
That's crazy.
something
Yeah, and
that
that's where we're different. We're no longer twins.
we're actually not related anymore.
But yeah, talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I went to college, did the whole education route, getting a degree. I did my undergrad in accounting, thought I wanted to go the whole CPA route, do taxes for the rest of my life, live behind a
Mm.
desk. Now that sounds absolutely traumatizing, but yeah, I wanted to do accounting, got my undergrad in accounting, and then I actually was starting in my master's when I picked up a camera for the first time.
Wow.
So I was actually living in Florida. I was working a job in accounting in
Okay.
taxes. I
Where
was
in
finishing
Florida
work
were you?
Navarre. So I was working in
Oh,
Pensacola.
okay.
I was
Yeah.
living in Navarre, so I was commuting, like, 2 hours each day,
Wow.
which has to do with photography too, but, so I had a pretty good commute every single day, so I was working every day. I was taking classes online for my master's, and I was living with a couple of friends of mine who had also done accounting in college. We were working at the same place. So, yeah, I had, like, a long commute every day. I brought this, like, tiny it was the freaking Canon T3, the Rebel, the OG of the
The
OG. I had
OG.
12, and I brought it to Florida with me because I was like, "I wanna take some pictures of the sunsets with a camera." And my
That's where we
roommate
all
at
start.
the time literally, we all start somewhere, but my roommate at the time was like we were graduating that next year, she was like, "I need some grad photos. Can you literally take photos with this camera?" I was like, "Okay, I'll try my best." So I took some graduation photos of her, and then I remember I downloaded Lightroom on my phone,
Mhm.
I downloaded some presets off Etsy because
Yep.
that's what you did back then, $5. And
For
I
like a
edited
pack of 20.
literally for a pack of 20, yeah, yeah, and it's just, like, orange skin tones, like,
Yeah, we
deep
don't we
patterns.
don't, say you should do that,
No,
just to
that's not
clarify.
something we recommend, but
Don't make our mistakes.
I was broke at the time, so that's all we had to work with.
Yep.
So I was editing them on my phone, of course, and then she ended up really loving them. She was like, "You should do more of this," and I love doing it. I was like,
Oh,
"This was so fun." So then her friend wanted some, and then her friend wanted some, and then it just became this thing where I was like, "Wait, I wanna, like, learn more about this."
cool.
So I would literally have YouTube up, like, listening to YouTube on my drive to and from work every day about cameras, like what to buy, what to get, what's
Cool.
raw, what's JPEG. I remember, like, not even understanding what a raw photo was, like, truly, I was, like,
Yeah.
downloading them on my phone, I was like, "Why am I out of storage? What is happening right now?" And I was like, "Oh, this is what this means."
Oh,
Like,
that
now
makes
in
sense.
hindsight, yeah. But yeah, I started doing photography while I was getting my master's, and then by the grace of God, literally a year later, I graduated with my master's degree and I went full time in photography the day after. Like I've
Wow.
never used either of my degrees other than like working while I was in my master's, but
Yeah.
yeah, it was just one door after another was open, and I was like,
Yeah.
"This is the one I wanna walk through," which is full
That's
time
cool.
doing this and capturing people's wedding days and, yeah, doing what I love. So, I have the degrees, I have the experience in taxes, it has really helped on, like, the business end of things.
That's what I was gonna say. I
Yeah.
wish I had that. Except I don't, because like, I seriously could not have gone through school for that. Like, they would have kicked me out.
It was brutal. I mean, it
The
was
numbers
truly
are not my thing.
they honestly were not mine either, like, it was more of like a stubbornness that I was like, "I'm gonna do this," not like, "Hey, I'm just smart and I can do it," like, I just, like, wanted to prove to myself that I could, so I, like
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah, I
it was
don't get
rough.
that.
It
Not
was rough,
mine.
yeah. No.
That is
Never
so funny.
gonna
I bet it's been cool though too, even on the education side, being able to coach people in stuff like that.
Yeah,
And you kind of having like the knowledge. Because when people ask me about specific things with like taxes or stuff like that,
yeah,
I'm like, talk to your accountant.
here you go.
But you can be like, I'll be your
I'm
accountant.
here, right?
So
No,
it
I
is
love
different.
it. It, like, literally and I think just because it is something that, like, we aren't taught in college. I remember taking my first
Right.
tax class, and I was like, "Why is this not required for everybody? Like, this should be just
Totally.
common knowledge for everyone to know because we all have to pay taxes. We all have to figure that
Yeah.
out, so, like, the basic information should be known, so, like, I love educating on, like, taxes, what you can write off, like,
Yeah.
LLC versus sole proprietorship, like, all the little things that are so important in our business to really
Right.
know. So yeah, I
Yeah, I've
love
always thought it would be cool if like states like I love the fact that it's easy to make a business. Like I
yes.
love that because like
Yeah.
really it's easy to get your LLC.
Oh,
You
yeah.
just Google it and figure it out.
Yeah.
But
Take
like at
minutes.
the same time, I kind of wish there were some type of like, hey, you have to take these 3 classes before because it would just prepare you so much
Yeah,
more.
I
Because you
agree.
just kind of like sign up for the thing and pay the stuff and then you
And
have
help
a business.
yep.
And then they're like, "Hey, you're actually required to do all of these things." And you're like, "Oh, I didn't know.
And then you
Why
get in
didn't
trouble
anybody tell me?"
yeah,
Yeah.
you pay a bunch of money because you were like, didn't do it correctly. It's like, well, no one
Right.
taught me how to do it correctly though.
Nobody yeah,
So,
nobody said this.
yeah, I get it. It's such a headache, and
Yeah.
I understand completely, but I love talking about it. Obviously, I'm not just like the most knowledgeable person in the matter ever, but
Sure.
I feel like I know enough to get people on the right track to where like they
Yeah.
feel confident in where their business is going business
Yeah.
wise. So yeah,
Well, that's
uh,
awesome. I'm super excited to have you at Photo
I'm
Camp.
so
A, because you can teach us all the business things, but then B, because I feel like you're a hype girl.
yeah,
And I feel like I think you even have that in your bio when I was like looking over your Instagram, kind of prepping for this podcast. I think it says like you're hype girl or something in your bio, which I
I
just love. So you're a self proclaimed hype girl. That's how you describe yourself.
know.
So, basically, first question as we go through like the meat of the episode, how does being a hype girl, a self-proclaimed hype girl, how does
Mhm.
that kind of like feed into your energy in your sessions, your business, like
Yeah.
humor obviously is huge for you. How do you feel like that plays into like connecting with your clients?
Yeah, I feel like it is a big part of who I am and what my business is. I feel like I've been on the other side of like having my photo taken with someone who's like, not that there's anything wrong with this, by the way.
Mhm.
There are different people who handle things differently. I've just
Yeah.
realized what works and what I feel most comfortable with. So that's what I want to put in my shoots. But I've been on the other side where like I've had the photographer take photos of me that's like quiet, that's not really saying
Yeah.
anything, And, like, I feel like in that moment, I felt insecure, and I'm like, "Oh, but am I, like, looking good?" Or she's like, "No, you need to change this." Or like, "No, we're gonna change this." And I'm like, "Oh, so that doesn't look good. Okay, awesome." And, like, I leave the session feeling, like, worse than I did coming in
Mm,
versus having someone that's, like, literally hyping me up the entire time, being like, "Oh my gosh, you look so good. Like, yes,
yeah.
queen. Like, get it." Like, it's just, like, this energy that they bring to the shoot that I'm like by the end of it, I feel like the Queen of England.
Yeah.
I'm like, "Cool." I'm like the hottest thing that's walked into this room, like,
Thank
even
you
if
so
that's not
much.
true.
I'll call Tyra
Yeah.
Banks right now.
Yeah, like, to me, it just made the experience better, and I for one, naturally, I feel that way with all my clients, like, I'm like all of my clients are beautiful and special
Yeah.
in their own way, and I, like, love finding that and, like,
Yeah.
emphasizing on that, like, I think everyone is so unique and special, so, going into my shoots, I'm loud, I talk the entire time, I'm literally, like, screaming half the time,
We
like,
are the
truly.
same.
There's not a quiet moment. If you're one of my clients, you know, you're probably like, "You're an idiot."
That's
But I
amazing.
feel like it brings a confidence to them where they start getting comfortable quicker,
Mhm.
and then it also, like, I think brings genuine laughter to a lot of the shoots because, like, I
Yeah.
am acting goofy and, like, I do make some jokes and, like, am dumb in it, which then makes them laugh and giggle and, like, look at each other, and
Yeah.
it just to me, the I always want the energy to be positive, uplifting, confident,
Yeah.
which is why I say I'm a hype girl because 'cause I'm always gonna hype you up, like, it's
'Cause
never
I
gonna be
am.
'cause I am, I'm gonna tell you that you look good, it is what it is. But yeah, I and it's not something that I tried to do, I don't think it's
Yeah.
something that I'm like, "Okay, I need to hype people up today." It's just, like,
It's natural.
naturally, I want to always make people feel
Mm.
confident when they leave their shoot with me. I want them to leave thinking, like, "That was so much fun," not
Yeah.
like, "Wow, that was like pulling teeth and I hated every second of it."
Yeah.
So
I think it's such an interesting, like, it's almost like a cool dichotomy to be
mhm,
able to hear you talk about, okay, I'm like the hype girl. I never stop talking. I'm excited and hyping you up and saying, yes, queen, like the whole time. Right.
yeah.
But when I look at your Instagram feed and I look at your work, your photos to me feel like soft.
Yeah. Yeah,
You
yeah,
know what
yeah.
I mean? They almost, okay, this is like the weirdest word to describe it, but they feel like
No,
motherly.
I get that, yeah. Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
like, that's a weird word, but,
I
like,
actually
motherly is, like, the word I feel like comes to mind when looking at, like, the way that you edit, and it's cool, it's, like, really true to color, but at the same time
Mhm,
has, like, the hint of filmy to it, and
yeah.
it feels like being home is kind of, like, the way that you edit, which is really cool. Danielle's gonna cry.
Yeah. I will cry
But
this next
no, but
episode.
it's true. It has, like, the haziness to it. It's really, really beautiful. But it again, it feels almost like a dichotomy to that. So do you do anything at your sessions that, like, you're being loud, you're being fun, you're being crazy because it's a great experience for your clients, but do you do anything there that kind of prepares you for the editing style that you use? Does that make sense? Is that a weird question?
Yes. No, absolutely. I definitely oh my let me turn my do not disturb on some of my
Everyone driving was just like, "Whoa."
so sorry about that. No, so, yes, I get what you mean, and I think that the distinction of what I'm doing in sessions versus what I'm capturing is
Mhm.
I'm trying to think of the best way to describe it. Basically, I like to say I like to capture around emotions when I'm creating the emotion. So, like,
Oh,
if I'm
cool.
talking if I'm loud and then they're in their moment, like, reacting to that or they're reacting to a prompt that I just gave them, like, I wanna be capturing around that, not necessarily in their face in that moment, like, I love different angles, so, like, maybe an angle that isn't just the main character angle, but maybe, like,
Yeah.
a side view angle, and just capturing even when they don't even realize that I'm taking photos, like, I overshoot, it happens, I recommend it, you have to get all the shots, but, yeah, I guess the best way to describe it is capturing the emotions that aren't just in your face and
Mhm.
right there in front of you, for a and different shoots require different types of energy, I guess. Like my family shoots are very different, I feel like, than some of my couple shoots.
Yeah.
I've learned that the best way family shoots are done, in my opinion, in my experience of what I've tried over the years to get genuine emotion from the children, is letting them do what they want to do. So, like,
Yeah.
you're just following the kid the entire time, and whatever's happening with that, I'm just there to kind of
They're just
capture it.
playing. Yeah.
They're just playing, and I'm there in that one moment when he's blowing bubbles. I'm getting one angle of him blowing bubbles, and I'm gonna get another side, and then I'm gonna get the dad's reaction and the mom's reaction,
Mm.
and him up close. Like, I'm thinking about all of these little placements for the same
Yeah.
type of movement.
That's cool.
But yeah, I would say it almost feels like I, like, disassociate from myself during sessions, like, my brain
Mhm.
and my mouth and everything is, like, saying and doing one thing, but my camera is, like, following a different narrative, if that makes
Cool.
sense.
Yeah. Yeah, it
Uh,
goes back to, like, it feeling like a dichotomy. Like, it is 2 different things that are happening, but
kind
they
of,
create a cohesive story. Like, it's
yeah,
really pretty cool.
I
Do
guess
you do a
so.
lot of family sessions?
I do, yeah, I do a
Ooh,
good
okay.
bit, and I feel like I got into that without even really realizing I was getting into it just because of my cutie little return clients. Like, I had
Yeah.
weddings 3 years ago that they got married and we had a good relationship and good experience. And then they got pregnant and now they're having
Mhm.
babies and their babies are 1 or 2, 3 at this point. So it's just like this transitional
Yeah.
period in my career that's just one of the sweetest times
Yeah.
right now. Like I love it. Family sessions are by far probably one of my favorite sessions to like
Cool.
document
I don't
now.
hear that often.
I know. I never would have said that. Ask me 3 years ago, I'd be like, "No, I literally
Excuse
hate
me?
them." And I actually met a girl, this is a sidetrack, I met a girl in North Carolina when I was living there 3 years ago, and she inquired with me online, and it was one of those moments where I was like, "She's too cool for me. She's inquiring with me, that's crazy." And, anyways, I did her family session, and at this point, I'd only ever done posy, like, very smile at the
Mm,
camera,
yeah.
everyone wanted where I was from.
Yeah.
And she was like, "I don't wanna pose, I wanna play at the park with my kids, and I just want you, like,
Yeah.
capturing around." I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is crazy, I've never done this." And
Yeah.
I did it, and I was like, that was magical. Like, it truly shifted my brain, and I've talked to her about this since because 'cause we're still really good friends. I'm like, "Your family session shifted my brain with family sessions, and now I
That's
don't do
cool.
them any other way." Like, my if someone inquires, I go ahead and let them know, like, "This is how I approach family sessions. If that's not something that you're interested in, I do have other recommendations of people that can do the
Yeah.
posy, smiley, and they do love doing that. That's
Yeah.
just not gonna be the experience that you get with me, and I want you to get the best experience." So,
That's cool.
putting my cards out on the table of how I offer them and how I handle them,
Yeah.
if you want that, great. If not, then I do have another option for you. But I feel like
I love that because you're also like not afraid to just turn down work. I think
yeah,
sometimes people like will take things that are outside of their niche or their style or their vision for their business just because they're afraid of not making money.
yeah,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? So I
Yes, no,
love that you're like, I'm putting my cards out on the table because what
yeah,
you shoot is going to be like really how people see your business. So, like,
exactly.
you might not be sharing those things on social media because you don't want to book them. But if that family is sharing it on social media and tagging you, then they're going to like the other
Exactly.
families that they're in connection with are going to see it too. And it is a representation of your business. So, I
Absolutely.
think that's really cool. And just wanting more for them than from them too. Like, you want them
Exactly.
to enjoy the
Oh my
session.
gosh. Yeah, because I know that I can try my best to do what they want, but I know that there are other people better equipped for them, and I always wanna give people the best for what they're wanting kind of
Yeah.
thing. Not that,
Yeah.
I'm a bad photographer, but there may be other people that do better at newborn sessions and do better at posed in a field. Like, that's
Yeah.
just not something that I feel super drawn and connected to. So I'm not gonna be able to give 100% of myself to that shoot. And I
Sure.
always just want to be honest with people and let them know that. So, but
Yeah.
I will say on the fold of that, I've rarely gotten anybody that's been like, "Oh yeah, we want the posy people." Usually they're like, "No, we saw your Instagram. We know what you shoot like. That's what we
Sure.
want." So I usually get just amazing inquiries and
Yeah.
clients that are like down to do basically anything and
Yeah.
are super fun with it. So yeah.
It's cool that they're returning clients too, a lot of them, or that's how it started for those family sessions. Do you do a lot of travel family sessions then?
Not really. I'm trying to think.
Like just
I
because
did
you
I
do a
haven't
lot of like travel
traveled
destination
weddings. Yeah.
weddings, so I was just curious if
Yes.
it
I
overlaps.
would say yes and no. I have actually stopped traveling for just sessions,
Mm,
in general, just because I've just realized it's very
draining.
time consuming and just it
Hmm.
just takes on a lot when I'm already traveling several times a year for weddings. What I do though is like go ahead and put up my travel dates for the year, and usually what I'll do is have clients that are like, "Hey, I see you're gonna be back in North Carolina for a week.
Okay.
While you're there, can we schedule a family session?" So if I am traveling for sessions, it's usually I'm already
Yeah.
traveling for weddings, and then I'll stay an extra day or two to do their session as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. Okay. So, what are your favorite places that you've traveled?
I have so many. I have so
I saw
many
you
amazing.
just went to Italy.
I just went to Italy for a
It was
wedding. Yeah. So
beautiful.
it was stunning. They rented out a castle. They're the
You
sweetest
could
couple in
just
the
stop right there.
world.
They
I know.
rented out a
They
castle.
rented out a castle. And I was like,
Oh.
"Oh, casual. Awesome." They were so sweet. It was like a whole wedding weekend with their friends and family and
Oh
like
my
super
gosh.
intimate wedding. But yeah, and I stayed for an extra week and a half because you can't not when
Because
you go to
yeah,
Italy.
Italy.
Exactly. It's Italy. But yeah, I just shot in Italy. I've had 2 weddings in Alaska this year, which was
So
just
cool.
super freaking cool.
Very different. Italy, Alaska.
Very different. I've had a wide range of different weddings this year.
Yeah.
I'm about to go to Colorado next week for one, and then
Cool.
Cancun this next month for one. So I have a lot more traveling left in October for weddings.
Yeah.
My favorite, it's so hard because when I think of favorites, I'm like, there's so many dynamics that go into like a favorite wedding.
Yeah.
But honestly, the wedding that I just did in Alaska was probably one of my favorite weddings I've ever shot. Partially because like where I was, I love Alaska. I love the mountains. I love the cool weather. And the couple was just so down for anything. Like they took me, we did a day after session and
Oh,
they were like,
fun.
"Hey, we're going to do a helicopter tour on a glacier and that's where we're going to do our bride and groom photos." I was like,
Are you joking?
"Are you kidding me? This is a fairy tale." So
Yes.
we literally got up, went and took this helicopter tour onto a glacier, took photos on a glacier, drank out of the glacier water, this whole thing.
You're
And then we went from
lying.
there to like this beautiful hike, beautiful green grass. Like they were just so down to do anything. They laid in the grass. It was wet. It was fun. And like ended with sunset there. Like
Oh my
I was
gosh.
like, this is the dream. This is it.
Yes.
Like I literally saw the second that they left, and I was like, bye, love you guys, see ya. I sobbed. I sat in my car and truly
Oh.
cried for like 10 minutes at how like I'm gonna cry thinking about now. Like how just
Listen,
unreal.
I do not really I do like very few weddings. Most of them are local or they're travel for just the people that I know, that sort of thing, like friends and family. Um, and I do seniors. Okay. So I
Yeah.
do not really do families, but I do seniors with some of their families, like if they pay additional fees and stuff like that for their senior session. But I think leaving this podcast, I'm about to start offering destination weddings and family shoots because you are really hyping them up right now. Like
See? The hype girl, I'm telling
you
you.
are the hype girl. I think my mic just clipped as I said that because I was so excited about it. But seriously, you're like, oh yeah, let's just drink out of some glacier water in Alaska and do a helicopter tour with my couples. Like, dang, why hasn't a senior asked me to do this yet?
Yeah, it's
Their
fun.
parents would be like, excuse me.
Okay, casual.
That is
No,
so funny. So if you need a second, I'll be your girl. I'll be
done.
your hype girl.
Okay, fine. Sounds
Amazing.
next trip. See you next month, Colorado.
That
Um,
is so funny.
yeah, it
Um,
is
yeah, next month is photo camp, so no.
so
So no, I got
actual.
a lot on my plate actually. That's so funny. Okay, so what are some of your I'm just curious, like you obviously are talking a lot about like, okay, so this is like the day after. What do your packages look like? And again, did not
Yeah,
prepare you for this question at all. So
you're
putting you
fine.
fully on the spot right now.
I
But
love it. I love it. So for regular, I have kind of 2 different packages. I have my well, technically 3. I have my like domestic wedding packages. If you're doing a full out wedding, I have
Mhm.
an 8, 10, and 12-hour package, which I know is kind of taboo. And some people are like, I would never do a 12-hour wedding. I don't do many, but
Yeah.
sometimes depending on the situation, it kind of needs that. So I would rather have too much time than not enough.
Yeah.
Um, and then I have basically it's like I don't know how much detail you want in this, but it's basically like just by the hours 8, 10, 12, 3 bundles. And then I have a page that's like a la carte. So you can add on anything that you want. So I have second
Cool.
shooter add on, rehearsal dinner add on, film add on, day after session, engagement session. And so they can choose any of those as they want and just pick and
Cool.
choose, add them on. So that's kind of like my domestic wedding packages. I also have elopement packages, which are kind of different depending on international versus domestic.
Mhm.
But my domestic ones are anywhere from 3 to 6 hours, and I kind of customize that to the client too,
Yeah.
like what they're wanting, how many hours they're needing. It's more of like a per hour type package. And then they can also do the a la carte option, obviously. Like film, usually film and day after sessions is kind of what they do.
Yeah.
Um, and then my international packages are more vamped up. They are around the same when it comes to hours. However, I do allow them to split those hours into a couple days. So if they
Cool.
choose a 12-hour package, they can do, if they have an hour for welcome dinner, they can put an hour towards that, an hour for a day after session, or
That's
I mean,
cool.
a day after party, and then 10 hours on the wedding day. So I really,
Mhm.
really customize it with each client for international weddings just because I know they can all be
Cool.
so different. And then for international weddings, I do require 4 days of travel.
Okay.
I've done it before where I'm like, I fly in, the next day's
Mhm.
the wedding, and then I fly out, and it's just
Yeah.
absolutely miserable. So,
Yeah.
I require at least 2 days stagnant, like, where I'm at, which typically it's more than that, but,
Yeah. And that way too, if anything travel happens, like, you just
exactly.
never know with flights.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's my biggest thing too. Because even with domestic ones, I typically either fly on Thursday nights or early Friday mornings, just
Mhm.
depending on where in the US they are. Just because if something were to happen, then that would be really, really unfortunate. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, that's kinda how my packages work. I do a lot of more day after sessions when it comes to, um, like, big travel weddings where, like, my last one, for
Mhm.
example, they had an intimate wedding party, family there. They really didn't wanna just spend a whole lot of time that day doing bride and groom photos, so they were like,
Sure.
"Let's just do very little on the day of, and then we'll really focus on us, like, the next day when,
Cool.
like, our family's traveling out and all of the things."
That is a
And then
dream
also
right
yeah,
there.
and if you're going somewhere cool where, like, maybe you're getting married at, like, a place where you can have a reception, but, like, it's not the vibes and the views that you want,
Yeah.
going off an hour and driving an hour to go to this really elaborate, cool place is
Yeah.
so worth it because you're driving or flying all the way out there for something really cool. So,
Totally.
yeah,
That
that's
is
kind of
cool. How do you
how
deal with, like, your travel fees for that? Like, are they just kind of
yeah.
in your packages?
Yes, so I used to basically quote them all out. I'd sit there and do a
Do
whole
all the
math
work.
equation to figure
Mhm.
out. Now I basically just have upcharged my packages to a certain amount and say
Cool.
that travel is included minus flight. So I don't include flight just because flight can be
Yeah.
so just kinda crazy, and then for
That's
international,
smart.
I customize that just depending on where we're going because some places are just absolutely astronomical, and then sometimes I will quote out international packages, but for domestic travel, my travel's included, like my stay and my
Cool.
transportation, and then I invoice them separately for the flight.
Nice. That's
Yeah,
awesome. Okay,
mhm,
cool.
try to make it
Um,
easy.
do you feel like you've had any, like, challenges that you've faced as you've been, like, planning for kind of whether it's international or domestic, like, travel stuff? Like, how do you deal with, like, the challenges of, like, coordinating those things?
Oh, yeah, it's so fun. It's so fun. I will say
It's so fun.
just transparency hour here,
Do
because
it.
I feel like if you're going into the industry, you can be like, "Oh, it's all just butterflies and rainbows, like, you
Yeah.
get to travel all these cool places, and it's so
Yes.
easy," and it's like, I will say traveling for weddings is exhausting, just
Mhm.
straight up, honestly, it's a lot harder than having a wedding 30 minutes from your house, waking up in the
Right.
same bed, going to bed in the same bed, like, travel weddings require a lot from you, it requires you to usually block off at least 3 days because 'cause you're
Yeah.
traveling on Friday, Saturday's the wedding, you're traveling back Sunday, so there ahead of time is taking up more of your weekend than you would at a local wedding,
Yeah.
and then 2, yeah, it's a lot more energy. You're having to coordinate traveling, you're gonna have to find parking and then, like, go through baggage claim and, like, all, like, the in-betweens, find an Uber here, rent a car, like, it is
There's a
it's a
lot.
lot of work and it can be really exhausting, so that's like, there's a part of travel that people don't see that's, like, the nitty-gritty,
Yeah.
like, my flight got canceled and I had to sleep in the airport overnight, like, that happens, and it's not fun, and
That's terrible.
it's terrible, and I've done it multiple times, and it's not fun, but, yeah, I think I'm pretty, like what's the word? I'm pretty laid back, I'm pretty
Yeah.
easygoing, like, I can sleep in my car overnight if I need to, and it's, like,
I
not
think
the
you
biggest
have to be a
yeah,
destination wedding photographer. You
I
have
think
to
so
be.
too, like, you can't really be very, like, "This plan has to happen or else I'm gonna literally lose my mind," like, you have to
Mhm.
be very fluid with plans and situations and be, like, ready to just, "Okay, this happened, now we're gonna figure out what we need to do next," like,
Yeah.
I feel like because that is my personality and I don't get super anxious about things and nervous about things, like, it works well with me doing traveling. Um, so that's really how I handle it is like, "Okay,
Yeah.
well, this sucks. Now what do we do?"
Now
Like,
let's move
now
on.
we move on and we find a solution, like,
We're gonna
and
problem solve.
sometimes
Yeah.
yeah, and sometimes it's harder than others.
Yeah.
But it's
How
still
many weddings do you typically take a year?
Ooh, I would say last year, I believe I took a little under 30.
Ooh,
This year
girl.
This year, I think I was right at 28, 29,
Mm,
which not all of mine are travel. I do still
yeah.
do local, which I love my local when I do it, like, it is a nice kind of breath of fresh air, like, I just had a
Yeah.
local wedding that was 30 minutes from my house this Saturday, and I was like, "Oh,
Nice.
love the couple,
Yeah.
they're the cutest little couple ever." So it was good, but I mean, travel weddings, I say at least 15 a year.
Wow.
Um,
That's a lot.
which yeah, it is. I'm
It's
traveling
amazing,
usually.
but I bet you are exhausted.
Yeah. I am a little tired. I think I'm gonna do a little bit less next year just because this year
Yeah.
was just a big, big travel year for me, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't have done anything differently. Every place
Yeah.
that I went was, like, somewhere that I was like, "What? This is gonna be an epic place, couple, situation, like, I want to do this."
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it does take a lot out of you, and I think now, like, my sister-in-law just had a baby, and my other sister-in-law just had her little one less than a year ago, and, like, family's growing, and, like, my best
Yeah.
friend who I'm with right now, like, she just had a baby, and, like,
Yeah.
trying to make for more time for the people that, like, matter in my life is gonna require me to kinda
Yeah.
pull back a little bit on, like, at least my travel stuff for next year.
Yeah.
Um,
And it's cool
but
because there's different seasons of life. And
yeah,
like in
exactly.
different seasons of life, we get to pivot and build our
Yeah,
business in the way that we want it, which is just really
exactly, which
cool.
is so cool,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's cool that we're
Mhm.
entrepreneurs. We get to do that. Like, it's
I
just
know.
every season is different. Do
Yeah,
you feel like traveling so much has affected? Okay, this is kind of deep.
go for it.
But
I'm
do
here
you feel
for
like
it.
it's affected the way that you have like community with people? And even like for you, because I know that you're a follower of Jesus, like
Mhm.
obviously if you are traveling over the weekend, like how does it affect the way that you are plugged into a church community and just,
Yeah,
stuff like that in your life? Like how does that be
absolutely.
affected?
Yeah, I feel like it's kind of a twofold kinda situation for the community part. I feel like my community is so spread out everywhere, but I
Hmm.
still feel so connected to them, like,
Cool.
through Instagram, but also through, like, FaceTime and stuff, like, some of my best friends live states away from me.
Cool.
Um, and I don't feel like I struggle with that as much, like, I truly feel so supported in the community that I'm in, and the
That's
community that
awesome.
I made through photography has been just life-changing, like, truly life-changing.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think one of the hardest parts about travel is getting plugged into a good church. It's actually something
Hmm.
that me and my boyfriend have been talking about a lot recently because we do have a church that we go to back home, but because I travel, Sundays are
Yeah.
hard and I'll have to, I hop on online or,
Yeah.
have to listen to it the next day online. And yes, I'm getting the message still, which is great, but I'm not getting the genuine time
Yeah.
with the people there, and I'm a big, like, if I'm gonna be at a church, I wanna help, like, I wanna be
Yeah.
included, I want to not just, like, show up and get something from it and then leave, like, I wanna be plugged in, I wanna help, I
Yeah.
wanna do what I can, and I haven't been able to do that because of travel, which is,
Mm.
yeah, something that we've definitely talked about next year, kind of also honing back on because of that reason, because
Yeah.
I miss my time, my
Hard.
Sundays.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it is super important to me,
Yeah.
and especially, if kids are ever in the mix and stuff like that, it'll also, like, slow down, so trying to find the balance of, like,
Yeah.
"Okay, do I wanna travel now while I can?" And then, slow
Yes.
down a
And then
couple
also like
years.
creating a life that has routine and habits that
Yes,
you want to like have a
yes.
legacy in your family one day. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
'cause
cuz
it
the
is.
church is so like such an interesting thing cuz in our like American Western culture, it's
Yeah.
like you go, you attend, you listen to the message and it's a check the box of church, but
Yes,
really like the church is a people, it's
yes,
community, it's growing
absolutely.
together, learning together and like and that's why I talk about my small group all the time on the
Yeah.
podcast. Like they make fun of me. I've had so many DMs being like actually, you know what? One girl said she joined a small group because she listened to the
Nuh-uh,
podcast, and I was
I
like, "Heck
love
yeah!" I was like cheering her on.
that.
But like all that to say, like that's why I love my small group is because I
Yeah,
get to have that experience. Like Zach and I get to lead a church and have the experience of doing life one on one with people, and everything. But like it would be really, really hard to travel over the weekends to do that, and that's one of the reasons that I don't offer
yeah,
travel over the weekends as much. I do like again very rarely, but
yeah,
I'll travel for sessions and for like senior sessions and for brand
yeah.
sessions, but it's usually throughout the week. With weddings,
Mhm.
it's so hard because you can't. You don't get to pick when someone's wedding
No,
is, you
no,
know?
absolutely not. Yeah,
Yeah.
and you
So
don't get
I
yeah.
see you in that
Mhm.
because that's really hard.
It is, it's tough, and the routine, like you said too, is tough because, like, I'm very into fitness, like, I love going to the gym, I
Yeah.
love eating right and, like, making food, and it's like it's hard to do that when you're traveling. Like, when I was in
Yeah.
Italy, I was like, "I'm eating pasta every day, and I haven't worked out in 2 weeks." Like, I got
Yeah.
home and I was like, "I feel like I need to fix my body,"
Yeah.
and then I'm off to the next place. So, like, it is exhausting, and it's not something for everyone, and it's not something I feel like is
Mm-mm.
sustainable for a lifetime. Like I said, it looks
I've
really
heard a
cool
lot
on
of people say
Instagram,
that too.
and it looks really fun for the time being,
Hmm.
and I think it is. I don't see myself ever not traveling,
Yeah.
and that's what me and my partner kinda talked about. He's like, I don't ever want you to stop doing this because I know you love it kind of thing. And I'm like, yeah, I
Yeah,
can never see myself not doing photography or traveling, but I do see myself honing back a lot more just
totally.
because, yeah, I want to be in a routine. I want to be around a very like in it community, like
Yeah.
face to face with the church. I want to create a family one day, and like that's
Yeah.
going to require a routine for them. So, yeah, it's crazy being a human and
Yeah.
figuring all this out. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's
And I
fun
think
though.
there's so many people who want to break into the destination wedding industry, and I think that's an amazing thing. Like,
Yeah.
I don't want
Oh,
them to hear all of us talking,
no.
like our this whole podcast and be like discouraged in it because like Danielle's been crushing it for years now doing this. Like and it's such an amazing thing. She's got to have an amazing experience. And now it's the end-ish, we'll
Yes.
see, of her season,
Yeah.
and now it's changing. But that doesn't mean that it wasn't worth it in the time that
No,
you were
no, I
doing
would
it,
have not changed a single
Yeah.
thing. And where I was in my life, like that was good for me. Like the season that I was in,
Mhm.
I needed that. Like almost like literally needed that. And I truly encourage everyone to travel. I'm like
Yeah.
traveling and seeing different places, different people, different communities, different cultures. Like I grew up in the
Yes.
South where like everyone's the same, everyone's a certain way. And like it's easy to just have this narrative about the rest of the world when you've never
Mhm.
seen any of the
Mhm.
world. And now that I have such a different perspective on life, on people, on just I feel like I can relate so much more and like have so much more empathy for people's situations and what they're
It's
going through
good.
just because I've seen it. I've met people in every situation. And
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's traveling is such an incredible thing that everyone
Yeah.
needs to do at some point in their life.
I
Yeah.
love that. Okay, what advice would you give to any beginner photographers who maybe do want to jump in
Yeah. I
to
would say
destination weddings, to
to
clarify?
destination wedding. Um, I would say if you're wanting to, some biggest pieces of advice is one, which this is just for everyone starting, is try not to compare yourself to anyone else because you are unique in your
So
own
good.
way and in your own photos. And no one's going to take the same photo of you. No one's going to edit the same way as you. You are unique to yourself. Lean into that. Stop comparing yourself to everyone else, even if that means hopping off Instagram for a little bit or knowing that, hey, I can't scroll on Instagram for the day because I know I'm going to compare. Creating that boundary in yourself, looking at your work and how you want to improve it and go a certain direction and sticking with that. As far as getting into more traveling destinations, the way I kind of started was I would genuinely, whenever I was going somewhere cool, or literally sometimes I would just book a super cheap flight and go there for the day. And I would find a cute couple on Instagram, and be like, would y'all model for me for free? And you'll get photos in exchange. And you'll be surprised the amount of people that are so down for that and who are like, I
Totally.
love free photos. So sometimes like my travel places would literally just be me showing up for free, photographing them for free. Like I'm spending money going there,
Yeah.
photographing them, and then posting it on my Instagram and tagging that location. Like
Yeah.
letting people know, like, hey, I want to travel. I am traveling. Let me travel for your wedding. So
That's
including it
good.
in your bio, like I travel. You're my biggest thing to tell people is like you're up next. Like telling people where you're going and then
Yeah.
also including places that you want to go. So if they reach out and they're like, "Hey, are you going to be here?" and be like, "Yeah, when do you want to
Yes,
do
I
it?" Which
am.
I'm like, "Yes, I am actually." So just people don't know you want to travel until you tell them that you want to travel.
Yeah.
So show that on your page, on your business that you are down, that you want to, that you do, and just really hone into that. And the people really will come from that. That's at least
Yeah.
what happened with me. Is
The
just the more
people will come.
they will show up. I promise you. Be consistent, keep posting,
That is
keep
so good.
sharing. But yeah, I think the biggest thing would be to not compare what you're doing to anyone else because
Yeah.
social media is amazing, but it's also super discouraging because the you don't see
Mhm.
the nights where I'm up some nights editing galleries that are taking me 80 years because I can't get the colors right and I
Mm.
can't figure out how I want it to look and it's not my favorite end result in the world and like you don't see that. You just see my most highlighted posts that
Yeah.
like I've loved and like that I've edited the best that I could and that's what you
It's
see.
good.
You don't see the times where like I'm struggling or like I got in at 3 a.m. and I have a session at 7 a.m. and I'm like looking like death and I feel like death and like I'm gonna go cry in the bathroom because I'm exhausted. You know what I mean? Like that
Yeah.
is a side to every photographer. Every
Yeah.
photographer doubts themselves. Like if they're telling you they don't compare themselves or they never have,
They're
either they got a lot of
lying.
either they got a lot of confidence and I need all that, or they're lying to you because
Yeah.
I mean, I've done it. I'm like, "Ah, dang it, that's a cool concept. Like, I wish I'd have came up with that." Like,
Yeah. We all deal with that.
everyone deals with it. You just have to figure out a way to see someone do something and take it as inspiration other than
Yes.
a knock on your own business and being like, "Well, I can never do that." Well, yes, you
Yeah.
can because someone did, and you're
Yeah.
just as human too, and you can do that. Just go for it. Put in the
Yeah.
work, put in the effort. You can achieve anything, and I'm such an advocate for that. Like, everyone can literally achieve anything they want in life. You just try hard
Work.
enough. The most
Yeah.
work. Yeah,
I
literally.
totally agree. I
Yeah.
totally agree. Oh, well, I have loved chatting with you, Danielle.
I
I'm
have
so
too.
excited for March.
I
It's going to
can't
be
wait.
amazing. But
I
again, by the time this episode comes out, applications will be open for the next photo camp. So make
can't.
sure you apply. It's going to be so fantastic. I can't wait. It's going to be amazing. Danielle is just one out of four speakers and myself. So I guess there's two more other than the two on this podcast right now. But everyone is amazing and I super can't wait. So, one of the other speakers was actually my last guest. Her name is Shelby, and Shelby CC is going to be the other speaker, and I'm super excited. And then the other one is Preston Luke, who has spoken a couple times at Photo Camp. But Shelby was my last guest at the time of us recording this, not at the time that this comes out. So nobody judge the fact that the timeline is different. But I've been doing this thing where I ask my last guest to give me a question for the next podcast guest. So that's why I have to like explain that because it's like a fun thing, but also now it's like out of the timeline of it. So it feels funny. But here is the question that Shelby wanted me to ask my next guest. It's if you could have a useless superpower, what would it be? And it has
No.
to be useless. It can't have an actual use to it. I can give
Oh.
you her example
Okay,
if
give me
you
an
want.
example.
Okay. Her example was every time I blink, it changes the TV channel. I
No.
know it was so good, but it's such a bad superpower because she can't watch TV.
Awful. That's terrible. Wait, the first thing that came to my mind is what if I could eat and never get full? Is that useless though? But that's I'm kind of using it. Because I could just like if you know when you eat something, you're like, oh my gosh, I want this
Yes.
forever. I never want to stop eating it. But you get full and you're like, ah, dang it. I would eat and
Oh,
never get
that's true. But that
but
would
it's you
mean you'd also be like 3,000 pounds. You know what I mean? If you just keep eating.
I wouldn't be fitting in this screen right now.
Yeah. That is funny. But I also feel like it's kind of sad because you'd always be hungry.
Okay, okay. I wasn't thinking about that though. I was thinking like I'm just content always.
Oh, okay. Well, then
So
that's
eating's
fine.
fun.
So is
I just
that
eat.
useless or is that
I
useful?
don't know. That's what I'm saying. I don't know.
I don't
That's a
know either, but we'll go with it. That's a good
that's
one. We'll go with it. Okay, what question should I ask my next guest?
okay, okay, okay. Let me think. Mm, I feel like this is a question that I need everyone to answer because it just
Ooh,
determines a lot about who you are as a person. Um, window seat or aisle seat?
that is a good one for a West destination wedding photographer to ask.
Yeah, I need to. I need
What's
to
your
know.
answer?
Okay, so I actually have two. I have window seat 100% if it's a flight that's less than 5 hours. Aisle seat if it's a flight that's over that. Because I'm not
Yes.
letting people get up to go pee.
Yes.
It's not going to happen. They've already got their iPads out and they've got their workout, and I'm like, I'm going to make you put all that up just so I can go pee. No, no, no,
That
no, no,
is so true.
no.
I also love that the middle seat is not even a question.
Oh
Like
no,
nobody wants the middle seat.
you're actually psychotic if you choose the middle seat.
Genuinely, that is true.
Like you
I
need to be
believe that. Yeah, I feel like I grew up always loving the window seat,
yeah.
but as I've become an adult, I like the aisle seat because I can spread my legs out more. Because like if nobody is walking, I
Yeah,
can put like my legs in the aisle, which I know
that
is
is
like
true.
not a
That
good thing
is
to do. But like I got knee problems. I need to crack.
true. Problem.
It's true. So being in the window seat with my camera bag under, it's like
Oh,
hard sometimes because you can't like put your
with
feet
your
out.
legs under there.
Yeah,
Yeah, you're
it
just like
can't
knees up
happen.
the whole time. Mhm.
Just knees up. If
Knees
you were
up the
watching
whole
on YouTube, you saw her little like hand gesture. That was amazing. Okay, we need to end this episode, but where can everyone find you to follow you? I know you said it in the beginning, but say it again.
Yes, Instagram at underscore Danielle Photog. That's me. That's my
Photog.
Photog. Photo G.
I love it. Yeah, everybody go follow Danielle. She's amazing. Like I said, she's speaking at photo camp. So if you want to hear more from her, apply to photo camp. It's going to be great. But also go watch her reels because she's hilarious and you'll relate to every single one. Comment on all the ones that you relate on and just blow her page up. But anyway, okay. Love you guys so much. You have been listening to Let's Create with Alex Blake. I'm your host, Alex Blake, and I will see you guys next Thursday.